Whenever you see a massive tree, have you ever just stopped and wondered, how did all of that come from one tiny little seed? I mean, how does something so complex, so perfectly designed, build itself and reach for the sky with such incredible precision? It's really one of nature's greatest architectural feats.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a plant do it? With no brain, no hands, no tools, how does it construct this magnificent structure that's perfectly optimized for wherever it's living? All right, let's get into it.
The best way to wrap your head around this is to think of a plant as a master architect. Seriously. It's not just growing randomly, it's following this incredibly intricate genetic blueprint, and it's making these brilliant engineering decisions at every single step of its life.
So where's the main office for this architect? Well, it's right at the top. At the very tip of every single growing shoot, there's a microscopic command center that is literally designing and building the entire plant one piece at a time.
This command center has a name. It's called the shoot apical meristem, or just SAM for short. And what it is this tiny little dome of super powerful stem cells. Its whole job is to produce every single thing you see above ground, the stem, every leaf, and, down the line, every single flower.
Now, what's really amazing is how the SAM keeps itself going. It's all about this beautifully balanced molecular conversation. You've got one key signal that basically tells cells, hey, you're a stem cell. Then, in response, those new stem cells send out another signal that says, okay, that's enough stem cells for now, which creates this perfect little feedback loop. And a third signal keeps the whole area in a constant build mode. It's this elegant system that makes sure the architect's office is always running, but never goes haywire.
Okay, so let's talk about the plant's first big engineering problem, deciding when and where to build a new branch. And believe me, this is not a random choice. It is a very strategic decision, all about maximizing sunlight and getting the most resources.
And this big decision is managed by something called apical dominance. You've definitely seen this in action. It's the reason a lot of pine trees have that classic Christmas tree shape. The main central stem, the leader, it grows way more strongly than the side branches, and it actually suppresses their growth.
So how does that leader stay in charge? It's all about hormones. The main shoot tip, our master architect, pumps out a hormone called auxin. This auxin flows down the stem, and it pretty much acts like a do not grow sign for all the dormant buds on the side. This is exactly why when you prune the top of a bush, it suddenly gets way bushier. You've just snipped off the source of that stop signal, and all the side buds are finally free to grow out into new branches.
Now, if we zoom way in to the molecular level, we find another really cool control system. Think of it like a battle between a stop protein and a go hormone. There's this protein called BRC1 that acts like a powerful brake, keeping the side buds from growing. But then you have a hormone, cytokinin, that acts like the gas pedal, and its job is to turn off that brake. So the decision to actually make a branch comes down to this molecular tug-of-war happening right inside the bud.
Of course, any great building needs plumbing, right? And the plant is no different. It has to build this incredibly sophisticated internal network to get water up from the ground and get sugars down from the leaves.
And this plumbing system has two main parts. On one hand, you've got the xylem. This acts like a set of straws, pulling water and minerals straight up from the roots. And what's wild is that these cells are actually dead and hollow when they're mature, which makes them great pipes but also provides really rigid structural support. On the other hand, you have the phloem. This system moves all the sugary food made in the leaves down to every other part of the plant that needs energy. And unlike the xylem, these cells are very much alive and kicking.
So as the plant gets taller, a soft green stem just isn't going to cut it. The architect needs a real engineering solution to scale up and provide some serious structural support. It's got to turn that little stem into a strong, woody trunk.
The secret to this amazing transformation is a special layer of cells called the vascular cambium. The best way to picture it is as a cylindrical factory that runs the whole length of the stem. It's a ring of stem cells that's constantly dividing, producing new wood, which is technically called secondary xylem, towards the inside, and new bark, or secondary phloem, towards the outside.
And check this out. This micrograph shows that process in action. You can see the cambial zone, that thin line of busy cells, and you can see it churning out these nice, orderly files of secondary xylem. Those are the bigger, thick-walled cells that become wood on the inside, and secondary phloem on the outside. This constant layering is exactly what makes a tree trunk get thicker and thicker every single year. But, not all plants follow the same blueprint. On the left, that's your typical dicot stem, like in an oak tree, with that really organized continuous ring of cambium. But on the right, some monocots, like palm trees, they evolved a totally different solution. They use a special monocot cambium that creates whole new scattered bundles of vascular tissue instead of those neat layers. So, two different architectural solutions to the exact same engineering problem. Pretty clever.
So the main thing to remember here is that none of this happens by accident. Underneath all this growth that we can see, there is a super sophisticated molecular control room where a whole network of signals is meticulously coordinating every single stage of construction. Let's just look at one quick example of this control. What you're seeing here is a constant conversation happening between the plant's different plumbing tissues. The phloem, that's the food pipeline, it sends out a very specific chemical signal. That signal gets picked up by the cambium, the factory layer, and it basically gives it two instructions. Keep dividing, and here's how you decide what kind of cell to make next. It's this incredibly precise communication that makes the whole system work so beautifully.
So when you put it all together, from that elegant little feedback loop running the show at the very tip of the shoot, down to the hormonal signals controlling every branch, and the incredible signaling networks that build a massive trunk, the plant is without a doubt a self-constructing marvel of biological engineering.
And that just leaves you with a really fascinating thought. We're just starting to understand this incredibly complex architectural blueprint. But as we decode it more and more, you have to wonder, could we one day use this knowledge to help design the plants of the future? Plants that are more resilient, more productive, and just better adapted to our changing world. Something to think about.